Are you ready for rapid fire?
The Monday version. I'm ready. I've been waiting for this.
It's here, baby. It's
Let's
here.
go. Let's
Fill in the
go.
blank. It's blank that new Irish running backs coach Ja'Juan Seider says Jeremiyah Love needs to be on the field on third downs.
It's going to make Irish fans very happy. That new Irish running coach, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like, that's what fans want to hear. There's no doubt in my mind that's what fans want to hear. I don't know that that's what Jeremiyah Love wants to hear. We'll see what comes of that. We're not going to get any indication whatsoever in the spring of how they're going to utilize Jeremiyah Love on third down. I don't disagree that there are some third downs where he does need to be on the field, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be as regimented maybe as it used to be when there was a third down and things like that. But then I want him off the field for some other downs. Like, I don't necessarily think that him being on the field more is the way to go, especially if you're planning on playing in 16 games again. But maybe the distribution can change.
I think it's awesome. And I think that it is a signal that, as like Deala McCullough was his own running backs coach and great in his own way. Ja'Juan Seider has been a great running backs coach and great in his own way. But ultimately, they obviously, there were some other comments that Seider made, like he doesn't have the complete same approach as Deala McCullough. And that is going to be interesting just to see how he manages that running back room. Because obviously McCullough, with that list of the 8 jobs, found ways, to keep guys invested, and all that kind of stuff. Like they all had their own roles. They all had their own jobs. It doesn't sound initially like we're going to see a carbon copy of that, in terms of approach from Ja'Juan Seider. I've always felt that at the very least, Jeremiyah Love, even if he's just a decoy, his presence on the field on third down can go a long way. But, like if it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, whatever it happens to be, don't you want your most explosive player, offensive player on the field? That doesn't mean he has to be out there on every third down, or if he is out there on those third downs, I think, like what you said, okay, maybe he comes off the field, like you convert the first down, he comes off the field, you can put Jadarian Price in for a couple of plays, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be a straight up sub where like this guy is getting this whole drive, this guy is getting this whole drive. I think that there are ways that you can still manage the snap count. And even if he's not getting the ball in his hands, he can still be a factor on the field because he's obviously someone that you have to account for if you're the defense. And if you can get him matched up on a linebacker, like in a passing situation on third and long, that's a win for Notre Dame. So I love the idea. It's just a matter, again, like you said, it's spring, so we're not going to see a full implementation of exactly how that's going to look right now. But I do like the mentality that, the position coach wants his best player on the field in those kind of situations when, that's a money down, third down.
Yeah, no, I get that. The only pushback I would have is I think Aeneas Williams is a better receiver out of the backfield. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I would say.
Like you want to see Aeneas Williams more as a receiver out of the backfield, is what you're saying?
I think he's a better receiver than Jeremiyah Love. That might be it. Right. That he's better at him than. But I think there's things that you can do, you know what I mean? So that Jeremiyah Love doesn't have to be on the field every third down.
And I think that like what Aeneas Williams showed in the Orange Bowl with that reception that he made, and I actually asked him about this at the media session on Friday, like that it's basically second nature for him because he did so much of that stuff in high school, Aeneas Williams. So yeah, I mean it's a good point. He can be a viable option as well. But one thing again that Seider said, we don't even know, are we a 12 team? Are we an 11 team? Are we a 21 personnel team? Like it's still spring right now. So all those things would factor in as well. Like if you're going to run more 21, that gives you the opportunity to get Love and somebody else on the field, or, Williams along with either Price or Love, or, whatever it happens to be.
Yep. I agree with that.
And, that's the other thing as well, is like D'Lo McCullough. Obviously, it's like when it came to 21, it was like, well, these are my 21 guys. And it wasn't always the two backs that I think that everyone would like to see necessarily on the field at the same time if you're going to go with more 21.
Right. Yeah. Good call.
Okay. So little Gino Guidugli, the quarterback coach, he talked with the media this weekend. And hang on just a second. I pressed the wrong button as I was looking. I know. There it is. So he talked a little bit about the strengths of each of the three quarterbacks vying for the job this spring. Of course, Steve Angeli, Kenny Minchey, CJ Carr.
You talk about Steve. Steve's obviously got some game experience and has had the ability to start the bowl game 2 years ago, and has gotten opportunities to come in and perform in live games, and has always performed really well when he's gone in there. So I'd say experience. He's also a really accurate passer. He's a great leader. In terms of Kenny, Kenny's probably the most athletic of the bunch. Also a really accurate passer. And then CJ's got great arm talent. Is a natural leader. So I would say those things kind of are their strengths.
So those, according to Gino Guidugli, are the strengths of his three quarterbacks. Anything stand out to you there, Vince?
Steve Angeli and his experience. Like that's always that's what stood out to me. I mean,
it's like you just fall back on. He's played in a bowl game. He's won a bowl game. He's got some experience.
It's funny to me. Like he's just always got this experience and he's had the opportunities and blah 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 blah. And he's like, oh, and he's an accurate passer. Like it's like he forgets about the fact that Steve actually has, quarterback attributes that could benefit him in this race, because they just harp on the experience, which I thought was an interesting thing. It was like an afterthought. So that's what stood out to me.
Yeah, I thought so as well. Like experience. Like everyone leads with Angeli's experience. And again, it's not like a full season of experience. Over the course of 3 years, it's the equivalent of a little more than 4 games of experience spread over 3 years. Granted, he started and won a bowl game. Everyone will give him that against mid-tier competition. But, I like for a young guy, especially when you lead with arm talent and natural leader, for the youngest guy, CJ Carr, that also stood out to me. Like just hearing the arm talent, because that goes a long way.
I wanted to hear decision making from somebody, but we didn't hear that described for any of the three. If he would have said arm talent and decision making for CJ Carr, you might as well just end the competition. You know what I mean? Like that's what you want in a quarterback. But he didn't say that, so competition's still ongoing. But yeah, I was waiting for somebody to have decision making as one of their strengths, and again, it's a soundbite. I'm not saying that one of the three or all three don't have decision making as one of their strengths,
right?
But I was looking for that. That's the one thing I was looking for that I did not hear.
And that's actually a very good point, because he listed the top 2 or 3 for all 3 of those guys, and decision making was not something that he listed for any of them.
Right, and that
I hope that's not.
It's early. Concern. Still early.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I was actually waiting for him to say decision making for somebody, and he didn't. So
on tomorrow's show, we'll have more from Gino Guidugli about the quarterbacks. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into the quarterbacks on tomorrow's show. So we got that coming up. In the meantime, we got a little Notre Dame men's basketball news over the last couple of days. Tae Davis entered the transfer portal yesterday after 2 seasons with the Irish. And today, J.R. Konieczny, the local guy, also entered the portal after 3 seasons. So your first reaction when you heard the news, Vince, is what?
Well, the Tae Davis one, I was like, okay. That was my reaction. And then this one, I don't want this to come off the wrong way. But Konieczny, it was like, okay, well, now he can go play probably where he was supposed to play in the first place. That was my honest opinion. And I think JR is a good
Played
player.
a mid-major, go
Yes.
actually be a stud maybe at a mid-major.
I've heard he might be headed to Drake because I think that's where his brother's getting recruited to. I think that would be a tremendous fit. He would be a leader on that team. He'd be able to play 30-plus minutes on that team. I never saw JR as an ACC player. I think and again, say whatever you want. In my opinion, his recruiting class was the definition of lazy recruiting by the former head coach. His entire recruiting class was from South Bend. Like, dude, that's lazy. I'm sorry. And so I think JR was a reach.
But don't forget, like the other guy's playing in the NBA right now.
I understand that,
like,
but he was not a fit.
There was some talent there, is what I'm saying.
He was not a fit for Notre Dame in any way, shape, or form, and that's a problem. Like, that's lazy recruiting.
I mean, I do think that he was phoning it in toward the end, the former head coach, with some of his recruiting. But at the same time, like on the one hand, Blake Wesley is playing in the NBA right now. On the other hand, it's not like anyone was saying when Blake Wesley was coming out of high school, this is going to be a one and done guy. And, like his growth accelerated very rapidly in his year at Notre Dame.
That is also very true, but he wasn't going to get a second year. So it's a good thing that it did.
Right. But there might be some other guys like that as well coming in, just in terms of, like the kind of prospect they are. I'm not talking about, I think you're talking about more classroom type stuff and overall Notre Dame fit.
Being a fit.
Yeah. Like the Tae Davis, I guess I'm just a little bit surprised because it felt like, he has developed in his 2 years at Notre Dame. Like he averaged under 3 points a game in his freshman season at Seton Hall. He went to over 9 points a game his first year here, and he's over 15 points a game. Now, was he still inconsistent? Yeah, but
and that was the issue.
He's developed, like Shrewsbury and his staff have developed him, in the 2 years that he's been here. So that's maybe the surprise to me.
Yeah,
that he was leaving.
I think that's fair.
Konieczny, like you said, I think, like he obviously played more last year, averaged, a few more points a game last year as well, somewhat by necessity. And it was, not quite as consistent this year, but I think you're exactly right. Like, go to a place where you're probably going to have a really good chance to start. You go down a level, so it's ultimately not that surprising. The only thing that's surprising about it is just that he's a local kid and wanted to, go to Notre Dame and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, I think that there is more playing time out there for him someplace if he goes to a smaller program.
I completely agree. Like I said, he can be a difference maker at that level. I really do think that. I just don't know that he's the guy that you want in your starting lineup day to day in an ACC, for an ACC team. Like, I don't think that's who he is. And that's okay. I mean, that's not a knock on him. That's just who I think he is. I think, it's like he was overdrafted. You know what I mean? And it's not his fault. I would have said yes to Notre Dame too if I was in his position. So he got his degree from Notre Dame, and now he can go make a difference someplace. I think that's
and I mean, a couple good points. Like Decaf says, Davis wants to play an attorney team. And I think that's like when you look at the portal, like that's the question that some of these guys are going to be asking themselves, because someone was asking about Marcus Burton, and obviously he hasn't done that yet. But, like that's, and I'm sure that maybe, people have put out some feelers on a guy like Davis, like, hey, you can come in and
he's an athlete.
You can beat. Yeah.
Yep.
And then Indy Sailor says JR needed to move to make room, minutes for the guys coming in. And that's probably part of the decision.
Why he's probably not the only two moves that are going to happen.
Yeah. And then it's like, how much roster do you have left? And how much do you have to go to the portal again, to bring in more guys? But it's a constant thing, man. Every year, college basketball. Now, like my sister had some a player this year, entered the portal like a week ago. And, I watched a couple of my sister's games, when they were playing in the Big West tournament. Again, she coaches for Cal Poly. And like, I watched that team and It's like there is no player on that team that's going to transfer up a level and go play anywhere up a level. Like,
Right.
so anyone, like if that's, what anyone on her team, that entered a lot of players, I think, kind of have that disillusionment. And even like last year, she had a player who averaged over 12 points and 8 rebounds a game, one of her better players. She transferred to Cal, and, Notre Dame played Cal twice this season. And, she didn't play either game against Notre Dame. And she had played, but it's, like in the 7 to 8 minutes per game, basically. Yeah. So you go from, you would have been a starter for a smaller team to now you're a bench player, on a better team in the ACC. But what did you really gain out of the whole thing?
Depends on what you're looking for, I suppose.
Yeah.
You want to have an opportunity to play D1 basketball, but your role is going to be diminished. Okay, have at it.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you're looking to get out of the situation, I guess.
And see, again, like Decaf is saying Davis wants to go play on a tournament team. There are no guarantees for, what Shrewsbury's team is going to be next year. But if Davis had stayed with the talent that Shrewsbury has coming in next season, Notre Dame could very well be, in the conversation being a tournament team, and should be in the conversation for being a tournament team.
Yeah, I never felt like Tae Davis felt comfortable here. That's just the vibe I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like whenever Shrewsbury wanted to make a point, it felt like he was always benching Tae Davis. And I didn't follow it extremely closely. That's just the vibe that I got. So, now he's in the transfer portal. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, that was just always the vibe that I got, that he wasn't always completely happy with his situation at Notre Dame, whatever that means and whatever that looks like. That's just the vibe I got.
I was looking at one of the comments there, Scott. I'm not sure exactly what pineapple means, but he wants a pineapple call if they go 3 possessions in a row without scoring, Notre Dame women's basketball. So, okay. Speaking of transfer portal, here's what J.J. Watt tweeted about college basketball's portal. The NCAA transfer portal opening before March Madness ends, and he says same as football portal opening before bowl season ends, is preposterous, literally cannibalizing your own sport. Imagine NFL free agency starting the Monday after wild card weekend. So, Vince, do you buy or sell Watts?
I honestly didn't think the transfer portal opened yet.
I didn't realize it was opening until I saw this flood of players going in over the weekend.
Yeah, I wanted to see like what they are, because I thought it was that's March. Yeah, today is the first day. Okay. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. You're pulling news away from the games and things like that. But here's the thing: today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, we got no games. Now there's women's games tonight, or today and tonight. But right for the men's side, there's nothing going on Monday through Wednesday. So,
but you're still in the middle of the NCAA tournament, even though there's no games for the next few. Like, what benefit is it to opening the portal now rather than just waiting until April 7th when the season is over? I mean, it's literally 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks. They should have just waited. I completely agree.
Because then you've still got the rest of the month of they're still in school for like 4 to 6 weeks, depending on when finals end after that. What's the benefit of now as opposed to just waiting 2 more weeks?
There isn't one. And I would be hard pressed for anybody to find anything like that.
Yeah. And I do think it's ridiculous, because again,
is it preposterous though? Is it preposterous?
Fully preposterous.
Okay.
Preposterous might be a little bit strong. But I get what he's, like the football part of it. Unfortunately, just the way the schedule lays out, there's just no way they're ever going to be able to fix that, because you've got to give them the chance to get in the portal and then get to their next school before the spring semester starts, if that's what they want to do, so they can be with their new team. There's just no way around that. Like, you can't wait until January 1st to open it. Now you've got, playoff teams and all that stuff, and they can still go in the portal late, but By the time Notre Dame and Ohio State played in the national championship game, school had already started. The spring semester had already started for those players.
So obviously this is never going to happen. John says, what if you're starting 5 players enter the transfer portal and you have to play a game? The starting 5 are not going to transfer out when you're into the Sweet 16. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
But there could be a team that's still actively playing that has a bench player enter the portal. Like, that could happen.
It's more likely that it's going to be a bench player who's not happy with his playing time who wants to head out rather than a starter, probably.
So that
if you're going to the tournament. Yeah.
And most coaches, once you enter the portal, are like, see ya. But it might be a case where, okay, well, you're entering the portal. We still need you on the bench. So you're still going to be a member of the team.
Right.
I mean,
but look at, was it Prabula, the Penn State backup quarterback? Remember that whole situation? Yeah. What I found odd about that.
Team, though.
What's that?
He left the team, though, didn't he?
Right. And that's what I'm saying. And the way James Franklin was railing on the system for all that. But then after, he went after the system for saying, well, this is what's got to happen because, he wants to go and have a chance to play. Well, they kept once for the teams that were in the playoffs, they extended the portal period basically for them. So he didn't have to leave when he left.
I think he just wanted to be able to go to another school in the spring. Yeah. Like you said, the spring semester. But yeah, I mean, they didn't have to. Bunch of Notre Dame players jumped into the portal after the season was over. Guys that were playing for Notre Dame jumped in the portal. That could definitely happen. And the portal for basketball obviously lasts until after, it's open for a month, which if you're going to jump in the portal, it doesn't need to be open for a month. You don't need a month to make that decision. So it should start.
It just has to be open for a couple weeks because then your name just stays in the portal and then you're going into summer and, you can still decide to transfer once the portal is, or once you're in the portal, it's not like you have to have a destination before the portal closes. Portal closes, but your name is in it. And then over the course of the summer, if a team decides they want you, you can still transfer there.
I would be fine if the portal was a couple of weeks. You started the Tuesday after the national championship game. It's open for 2 weeks and you call it a day. It could still end on the 22nd. And it starts the Tuesday after the championship game. That's 2 weeks. If you're going in the portal, you don't need more than 2 weeks to figure it out and get your name in. A month is too long, in my opinion. A month is too long. So
I agree.
Get it to the end of the season.
I agree. Fill in the blank. It's blank that McNeese State basketball manager Amir Aura Khan and his boombox became the breakout star of the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Did you see that he's transferring to NC State with his coach?
He is.
Yeah.
Coach is going to NC State. Aura is going with him.
I think that's awesome. You know what? I think it's freaking great. He's signing NIL deals. He's doing his thing. And this is the dorkiest looking guy on the planet.
He is, man. But the players seem to love him.
Love it. I love it, man. I think it's fantastic. I hope his shtick works at NC State because obviously he had something going at McNeese State. So I hope it works out for him. But I see that's what the tournament is all about. It's the small schools. It's the silliness that kind of goes along with. I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic.
I think so too. And it's I had never heard of this guy until I think Thursday when McNeese was playing whoever they were playing. They won their first round game. I can't remember even who they played now at this point, but they started talking about him and I had never seen this thing. Apparently it blew up a few weeks back on social media and it just blew right past me. But as of Thursday, I think he had 3 NIL deals. By the end of the weekend, he had 10. He had Buffalo Wild Wings, Tick Pick, Tops, Insomnia Cookies, PSD, Formula Bot AI, TurboTax, Fortnite, Rock'em Socks, and GLD Chains. And I thought that I heard that Under Armour was in there with him as well. But I don't know if NC State's an Under Armour school, so Under Armour might be bailing out if he's going to NC State. But he was getting over $100,000, man. The manager, $100,000. These managers got to up their game.
I love it, man. I hope it opens the door for more managers. All right. I think this is awesome. I'm all for it. He found his shtick and he's sticking with it and he's making all kinds of coin, making more money than you and me. So good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Decaf says NIL has killed the mid majors in the NCAA tournament. And that's like not just NIL, but the transfer portal, because
it's the portal.
What and I've been thinking, like going back to, like my sister, it's like it's harder than ever to be a mid-major coach now, because you get a player who has a halfway decent season and the first thing they want to do is jump to a higher level, whether it's NIL or just the portal and the ability to go play someplace else. The reason these mid-majors have like why one or two has always popped up every year and made a run is because you typically have a bunch of seniors who played together for 4 years.
Yeah.
And, so like they were a more cohesive unit than some of these bigger schools. And now they're not staying together for 4 years because, again, the player gets good and he's going to jump ship right away. He or she, whether it's men's or women's, and go play someplace else. So, yeah, that's absolutely it. The portal, it's the portal that's pro. I don't think we're going to see these mid majors make the kind of runs like we've become accustomed to seeing because of the portal now.
Yeah. And I mean, NIL has something to do with it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The ease of transferring now with the portal.
That's the biggest thing.
Just makes it that much.
I'm good. I can go play for a bigger and better team.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And obviously in many cases, NIL money will come along with it. That helps, but it's also had an impact on the big programs as well, because look at the traditional powers like North Carolina and Kansas and Kentucky, like where are they right now?
Right.
Like they've, like to varying degrees, like the portal has spread out a lot of the talent to other teams and other, look at the whole SEC, with a bunch of non-traditional teams dominating in the SEC, and the portal and NIL are obviously a big part of that.
It's the same in all major sports, right? Basketball, football. I mean, the mid majors are now minor leagues for the Power Four teams. I mean, that just is what it is. If you've got a kid who is doing some studly things at a MAC school, they're out. Like they're gone. They're gonna go to a Big Ten school or whatever their regional school is. Like that. That's just what's going to happen. And that's what happens when you have the portal and you have NIL and you have all of these different things, that you're just going to rob these smaller schools every time. And there just happens to be more basketball schools to rob from than there are football schools, but the same thing's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Joe wants to know if I'm going to Alaska because of my shirt. This is not the Alaska symbol. This is the California symbol. I got this when I was on vacation in California a couple years ago.
Pretty sure the Alaska symbol is like the Little Dipper or something. Like it's just a bunch of stars on a blue flag. Like that's all the Alaska flag is.
Right.
So
fill in the blank. It's blank that with multiple teams interested in his services, Aaron Rodgers has not decided if or where he will play this season.
It's painful. Like I realize how important the quarterback position is and all of that. Aaron Rodgers just needs to hang it up, go find a dark hole somewhere and do his dark therapy and just kind of be elsewhere. Because no team that's interested in him is any good. So he's not the difference. Like, I guess that's my biggest thing. Like, you're not the difference, my man. So what are you waiting for? If you really insist on playing, just pick a team out of a hat, call it a day, because you're probably going to be 500. You're not going to make the playoffs, and we're going to have to hear about you all season, and I don't want to.
Yeah, he wants the attention. I think that he thrives on, he just likes the fact that people are talking about him. And because
nailed it,
he's slow playing this whole thing, people are talking about him, and he likes to sit back and have people talk about him, and his name is out there. And, is he going to go to New York? Is he going to go to Pittsburgh? Minnesota was out there for a while. I think that that's it at the end of the day. Like,
There's no guarantee he would start in Minnesota because
Yeah.
they love the McCarthy kid.
Yeah, I think Minnesota's off the table, but
Okay.
yeah, and that's ultimately, like probably why it's off the table because he didn't
Yeah.
just want to go there and be a mentor or whatever,
Right.
But he's definitely narcissistic.
Oh yeah.
DJ, and that's like he may very well, wait a month and say, "Oh, I'm going to retire," but it's just in the meantime, he's fully content to have people talk about him and keep his name out there, so that he can come out at one point. So, well, this person was saying this and this person, because he likes that as
chip.
well, like to be the naysayer and just have the constant chip on his shoulder and
like I could very well see him doing the whole Brett Favre thing where he holds out until after training camp and then just kind of saunters way in. Oh, I could definitely see that. We're not going to hear the end of this until August, unfortunately.
You're probably right. Or at least, like July once camps roll around or whatever.
Which is totally holding teams hostage because if you don't know what your quarterback position is, like going into the draft and free agency, like all of those different things, on the off chance that you
how are you going to build a team that would actually help you,
Like Pittsburgh, for example, do they have a quarterback under contract right now?
I don't think they do.
So, I mean,
because Justin Fields already left.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's not under contract. And that's the other thing is like if Aaron Rodgers decides he's not going to Pittsburgh, it probably puts Russell Wilson back in play, even though the Steelers, I don't think, really want him ultimately. Is Mason Rudolph still there? John, I thought Mason Rudolph went someplace else last year. I don't know. I think you're a Yinzer, so you would know better than me. But I didn't think Mason Rudolph was still there. But if Mason Rudolph is your option, then is that really an option either? So maybe that is their only guy. I think your question was, do they have a quarterback under contract? So if it's Mason Rudolph, well,
I think it is. I think he is still
under
contract.
Good luck, Steelers.
For the Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, for some reason I thought he went someplace else last year, but apparently he's back. So Archer said he came back. So it sounds like maybe they signed him back this offseason.
Oh yeah, it says off. There's an article from 3 days ago grading every Steelers offseason move so far from DK Metcalf to Mason Rudolph.
There you go. Went to the Titans last year, but returned this offseason. So he was someplace else last year. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Again, we're going to have some more football talk. Tomorrow we'll have plenty of comments from Gino Guidugli on Notre Dame's quarterback competition this spring. We're going to get over to Notre Dame again this Wednesday morning, watch a little practice. And, a little practice being the key word and some post-practice interviews and stuff like that as well. So that's going to do it for today. Have a great one. Hit that like button before you leave if you would. We, of course, do appreciate it. And we'll talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.